watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to the program. As part of our celebration of the 10-year anniversary of Capitol View, we are talking to former Capitol View TV show host, and today I am proud to welcome Drew Petrimoulx back into the show. Drew, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Hey, Roby. It's great to be back. It's great to see you in the chair and excited to talk to you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you were a former Capitol View host, as I mentioned, I think roughly in the 2015 to 2017 kind of years there. You got to report a lot on the heyday of GOP supermajority rule. It was not that, post 2013, I guess, election, or 2012 election, where it was all still pretty close there. Governor Hutchinson was on a roll. The Republican legislature was on a roll. It was pre-COVID. I say that was the time when finding stories and interviews was like shooting fish in a barrel. It was easy back then. What do you remember of your time covering politics in Arkansas in that time period?
Yeah, well, I actually came to Arkansas in 2013, so I saw the last throes of kind of Democratic control. I think when I came there, Democrats controlled all the constitutional offices, and by the time I left, there were supermajorities in the legislature, and Republicans controlled all the constitutional offices. I started covering politics more intensively around, like you said, 2015, and that's when Republicans were really starting to consolidate control. So it was definitely a time of transition. I remember, watching Asa Hutchinson win, people come to power like Tom Cotton and really kind of become names that have really taken off ever since then. So I covered them in Arkansas and then eventually came to DC and saw their stars rise even more. And now obviously with Asa running for president, I've always said that Arkansas outpunches its weight politically. And I think the stories that really exemplify that were taking place during that time period.
One of the fun aspects of this job, hosting this show, as you well know, is that you get to kind of control who you invite in. You get to talk to the newsmakers who are making stories. You get to talk to the folks that you think ought to have a little bit higher profile. Kind of what was your approach to the interviews that you brought onto the set? What were some things that you tried to accomplish as a host of the show?
Honestly, that was one of my favorite times of my career. And I always say that I had so much fun just kind of thinking about who to have on and arranging the guests and thinking of what kind of questions we were going to ask along with my producer, Mark. And, I really approached it. One of my icons of journalism and I really admired the way he did it was Tim Russer on Meet the Press. I loved the way he questioned guests and always kind of tried to play devil's advocate to the way that they thought and asked the questions as if you were the opposition to their beliefs, whether it was a Republican or a Democrat. I tried to ask them, play the other part and ask tough questions. And I like to think that people respected that and people told me that they did, and really trying to delve into the issues and ask hard questions. I always wanted to be respectful and be cognizant that I wasn't trying to have an argument, but I thought that the viewer could get the most out of it, as though I really tried to play devil's advocate and press people to fully understand where they were coming from.
As you know, they like to tap dance when they're a guest on the show here. They don't always give you those straight up answers. You got to sometimes pull a little bit more out of them or ask the question a second or a third time. I don't go beyond three if they're not answering my questions. You got any, do you recall any fun stories or maybe some particular interviews that you were particularly proud of, that you were like, hey, that one was one that I'll put that one on my resume?
I remember having some pretty interesting conversations with Governor Hutchinson. This was during the time when the RFRA, there was a lot of these kind of social issues that were boiling up, and really trying to understand, Governor Hutchinson took a stand at that point that was a little bit different than maybe what Republicans are doing now, and trying to understand where he was coming from on that and understand both sides of that debate. I think Senator Cotton has always been a really interesting interview. He's a smart guy. He has an interesting history. He knows foreign policy. I always liked having him on to talk about foreign policy and discuss the issues with him. Wes Clark was a great interview, and he's great because he's in Arkansas, and he always would be willing to come into the studio, and just the depth of knowledge that he has and the experiences that he's had both in the military and in politics I think make for a really great interview. We did a series, and I can't remember which election cycle this is, but we were having state House and state Senate candidates from both sides do kind of like a debate, and we would have a couple of segments with each one of the candidates, and we'd have them going back and forth. I'd ask them questions, and those got pretty interesting, and I really enjoyed having the candidates do a little sparring. Anytime I had Bill Vickery on was usually pretty good. I remember I had him on with Max from the Arkansas Times. Remind me of his last name, but they had some. I mean, there were some times where I thought I was going to have to separate them.
Max Brantley is who you're referring
Max
to there.
Brantley, yes. Yeah, really interesting conversations with Max and Bill Vickery, where, you know, that's when you really have to do your work as a host to try to referee things and have a valuable, because obviously they come from different political perspectives and both have interesting things to say, but refereeing, but also allowing them to spar, but you don't want to let it get out of control. And that, you know, that was a really interesting, those were really interesting conversations and a real challenge for me to try to keep that something that was valuable to the viewers, but also let them say their piece.
All right, I got a little less than 60 seconds left. I want you to tell everybody, after you left the Little Rock market reporting, where did your career path take you to where you are now?
So I went to Washington, D.C., and I was reporting on congressional delegations of 5 states in the South, including Arkansas. I did that for 2 years. Took a step back after that, did some traveling, and decided I wanted to do some more long-form documentary-style stuff. So I still do reporting. I do some freelancing for NBC News Channel, so people can still probably see me in Little Rock and other stations across the country. And I also have my own video production company called Framed Up Productions. We do everything from documentary films to commercial video production. I do editing projects. I'm kind of all over the place. So it keeps me busy. I like having one foot in news and journalism. It's still a passion of mine, and I get to be a part of the NBC family, which is amazing. But I also get to step back and work on some long-form projects and documentary films that are just such a different approach and allow me to explore things, from a film perspective and documentary perspective, and also a journalistic perspective that just takes a lot more time. And I get to work on those projects with teams that are that's super compelling for me, and I love that aspect of it as well.
All right, Drew Petrimoulx, former Capitol View host, thanks for helping make the show make it to the 10-year mark. I appreciate you being with us, and best of luck to you in the future. We're back with more right after this.